All right, welcome everybody to another exciting episode of Under the Dome. I'm impressed if any of you guys are still sticking with us because it's, I mean, it is tough to justify a game like that. That was a horrible game. I mean, Bob, you know what what can you say about a game like this?
Well, I mean, first of all, I text Brendan before the end of the first quarter, and I said, "There's not going to be a post game tonight, barring some miracle, because if the Saints decided not to come to work, I don't see why we should." Um, I used words like embarrassing, humiliating, abysmal, catastrophic, and my two post game articles, and I thought that I was being friendly, uh, because I mean, this was a travesty of football, uh, almost worse than the 34 to nothing embarrassment at Green Bay on a Monday night last year. This is the most embarrassing display of Saints football we have seen in really quite some time.
Yeah. I they have people saying, "Oh, this is rock bottom." I'm like, no, it's not rock bottom, but it's in the past 3 years we have seen more of these kind of games than we did the past 16 years from 2006 to 2020.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a generation, so people aren't used to seeing this. We haven't had a block punt since what, 2011,
Yep.
against the Rams. That was a game we lost, incidentally. Um, we saw a punt return for a touchdown. That was one of the first times we've seen that in a long time. I know a lot of people were like, well, if JT Gray was still on this team, he probably wouldn't have let that happen. And I'm like, well, if the officials would have thrown a flag for an illegal block that sprung the guy, that wouldn't have happened either. So, that's about the two. To me, to me, it was a comedy of errors, one thing after another. And it started out with Brian Brzee getting flagged for a headbutt that I really didn't think that was a bad headbutt. I mean, it within the letter of the law, it was a flag.
Mm-hmm.
But I've seen worse than that, especially for like the third play of the game.
Yeah.
It's not like they had gotten chippy and then you're throwing a flag to establish order.
Right.
You threw that flag right then, and it gave them a second shot. I mean, you probably settle for a field goal there instead of getting a touchdown. Now, that doesn't excuse what Brzee did, because this team, we have seen two of the past three games, they commit a lot of penalties, a lot of pre-snap penalties. They look like their head's not in the game. People were accusing Kellen Moore of not even preparing this team to play a game. That's how out of sorts they looked. How do you read this with Kellen Moore and this team?
I mean, the coaching staff deserves criticism, no doubt about it. But the people that are criticizing only Kellen Moore for how undisciplined, sloppy, unprepared, and lethargic that this group was, I hearken you back to what Bill Parcells always used to say. This is the NFL. If I need to get you motivated to play a game, you need to get on with your life's work. I mean, these guys, some of them are making millions upon millions of dollars. Most of them, even the baseline salaries are more money than any of us see in a year, or in many cases a couple years time put together. So does the coaching staff deserve criticism? 100%, absolutely. But don't absolve players of the blame here. Don't let this become a Dennis Allen stink overflow. Because the coaches aren't the only ones that deserve their blame. And I understand what you were saying about Bressee's penalty. But really, things started to spiral out of control on the Saints' opening drive, which was the opening drive of the game.
Yeah, it did.
That horrible. I like the play call. It was a gamble, but I like the play call on the 4th and short to Kamara. But the pass was just horrible. Then Brissy, 2 plays before the BS headbutt. He had Sam Darnold lined up for a sack.
Yes.
And Darnold escaped, hit a wide open Smith-Njigba on a coverage breakdown. After that, I felt like, okay, this is going to be a long day. I didn't realize how long, but it was going to be a long day.
Yeah, and that was my next criticism, Brzee, because I think he is a very good player.
Yeah.
He, but he's not finishing games. He's not. I'm just finishing plays. He has got the Chase Young problem. He gets to the player, he makes the contact, but he doesn't bring him down. And you've got to do that. You've got to finish. And it gets even worse because, like last night, I was watching the the Baltimore Detroit game. And there was a defense I thought was the perfect defense to shut down the Ravens offense. Their attitude was they used Alex Anzalone. Now, all the Saints fans like, there goes another player that, was playing over there. But Alex Anzalone was set up as a spy. He was going to go whenever Lamar Jackson started his shit. He was there waiting for him. And all the defensive linemen, they had one job. If Jackson gets to you, don't try and tackle him high. Go start at the thighs and slide down and just hold those legs together. He's not going to run. The defense will rally and bring him down. And that's what they did. And then whenever Derrick Henry got the football, do not let him square his shoulders up. Make him stretch, go east-west, so he can't turn his shoulders upfield, and we'll rally to the ball. 2 of us will hold him in place. Somebody go and punch the ball out. And eventually it did come out. And that's how they won the game. And they did also get aggressive on 4th down. They had an incredible call, which was very familiar. You remember Taysom Hill versus the Chicago Bears, the option play. But yeah, it was both of them, both the offense and defense showed the discipline, the focus, and the consistency that this team simply does not have right now. And yes, it's on Kellen Moore, but Kellen Moore is not out there missing tackles. Kellen Moore is not out there not paying attention to the snap count. It's a lot of mental mistakes where the players are just not dialed in or focused on what's going on out there.
Yeah.
And it's just driving me crazy.
Well, I was on a radio show on Monday, and I didn't have the exact stats in front of me, but the radio host helped me out by pulling them up so I can relay them now. The Saints have committed 31 penalties so far this year, a ridiculous number in and of itself. 16 of them have been pre-snap penalties or illegal motion kind of thing. You don't get more undisciplined than that. Period.
And you can't win. They're not good enough to overcome that. The Saints, the 2011 Saints had a lot of penalties, not pre-snap penalties, but a lot of penalties. But their offense was good enough to overcome that. I've never seen all my years of watching Saints football. That was the year where 3rd and 15, they can convert that. third and 17, they're going to convert that. With this team and last year and past since 2020, third and 3. I don't know if they're going to convert this. This is a big third down. I don't know if I don't know if they can do this. And it's just it's frustrating because and this is why I wrote my good, bad, and ugly. I began with that Chuck Noll quote from 1969. If you're not dialed in, if you're not focused, if you're not prepared to play a game, we're going to have to replace you. And I don't care who you are, how talented you are, you're going to get replaced because I'd rather guys who have less talent but are more focused and ready to play than talented guys who don't look like, I'm going to pick on him, but Chris Olave gets the first down, points the wrong way on the sideline. I'm like, with the meme from Naked Gun where everybody does the head slam. I'm like, that's where we are right now. He pointed the wrong way for a first down, and it's just, it's frustrating because, again, I don't see the leadership of the team. I don't see them rallying to get guys focused and dialed in. I don't see leadership out of the quarterback. People want to see Moore throwing a tablet on the ground or something, some kind of emotion out of him. It's just he's not going to be that kind of guy, though.
Right.
That was Sean Payton. That was Jim Haslett. So, okay, this one I'm going to have to address here. Brian, if you're getting day 3, 5th round, 6th round, 7th round picks for these guys, is it even worth trading these guys? Maybe Olave can get a 2nd round pick at best. Shaheed, 4th round pick. Taysom is injured and he's 35 years old with a $10 million contract. I don't think you can get anything for Taysom.
No.
Alvin Kamara, maybe you can get a day 3 pick, because he's 30. I just don't see any point in trading those guys. You don't have anything to trade. Unfortunately, that's why you're so bad, because you don't have anything to trade. You've got some old players who have played very well for you in the past. No, Brian, I'm not about keeping this bad roster, but you can't trade them because they're not worth anything. Who wants these guys? If they do, it's a buyer's market. If you're broke and the most expensive thing you have is your car, and somebody says, I'll give you $300 for it, are you going to sell it? Or are you going to try and get more value out of it? That's the problem. That's why I don't think you can trade them. I just don't think you have anything worth trading. Olave at least can give you something because he's on a rookie contract and he's a receiver. And maybe Shaheed can give you something, but you just don't have anything. So that's my. I've seen this popping up a lot because they want Alvin Kamara to get that Super Bowl ring with somebody. They want. But it's just you have no leverage. You don't have anything that people are going to overpay to go grab. Not like when you had Jimmy Graham. Not like when you had Brandon Cooks in his prime. That's the issue. Yeah, probably so. Because it's going to take a long time to turn this ship around. And I expected it. Honestly, I expected it's going to take a long time to turn around. This rebuild is 3 years overdue. So, basically got an old roster that wasn't improved during the Dennis Allen years. Really hadn't been improved since they went all in 2018. 2019's draft and 2020's draft was all about getting over the hump to get Drew that ring, that last ring. And it didn't happen. So Sean should have bitten the bullet in 2021 and said, you know what? It's time. We're going to have to rebuild around a new team. No. Instead, they tried to win one more time with Jameis Winston. And that didn't work. Then Sean quit. So they hired Dennis Allen. A mistake. Dennis Allen's got an 8-and-something record, 8-26 record. I'm not going to sit on this rebuild and have everybody point out my record over and over again. You got to win for me. So we're going to trade number 1 pick to get a left tackle because we're going to let Teron Armstead walk. And we're going to trade up to go get Chris Olave. And we're going to try and break the bank to go get Deshaun Watson. All bad decisions. All of them. But it's already done. I mean, that's my problem. So anyway, I kind of got off track there, but yes, he did. Maybe he bit the bullet and got rid of the guy who just got benched today, Russell Wilson, and took a lot of shit and had a really bad Denver Bronco team. They got blown out 70 to something by the Miami Dolphins, 2 years ago. And he had that horrible season where everybody wanted to get fired and wanted him fired. We just haven't had that yet. And he's turning his team around. So anyway, yes, Mahomes was the pick. And that's why I always laugh when the Buffalo Bills lose to the Kansas City Chiefs because they allowed Kansas City to get the guy that's going to stop them from ever winning the Super Bowl. But, Bob, offensively, what does Moore have to do to fix this team so it can at least be competitive?
If Rattler is going to be his quarterback, and Rattler is going to be the starter this week for sure. If Rattler, whoever is going to be his quarterback, he needs to take the handcuffs off. Yeah. I'm not saying that that's the answer, but you have to find out if it is the answer. Now, Spencer Rattler has not played great football. He's not the reason this team is losing, but he's not playing great football. But part of the reason for that is and we talked about it before we went on the air. I have written about it. We have talked about it before. Brendan and I have talked about it. You have literally a 4x1 track team, relay team at wide receiver. Yet you don't test the defenses down the field. You want to spread them from sideline to sideline. Okay, fine. Then those playmakers have to make plays with the ball in the open field. Well, you're not getting the downfield blocking. I mean, you're not getting the point of attack blocking, let alone the downfield blocking to do that. And your quarterback, Rattler, is not getting the ball his completion percentage is just fine. There's 2 reasons why. His yards per attempt and yards per completion are so low. 2 reasons. One, everybody's blaming the coaches. Well, they're not calling the downfield plays. Okay, yeah, that's one reason. The other reason is, folks, look at the throws. The accuracy isn't there. Olave, Shaheed, Cooks, Kamara, they're not getting the ball on the move. He's throwing behind them. They're having to slow their routes or stop altogether to make the plays, and the defense is converging. A defense that's already pinched up because you're not testing them down the field. So, again, I don't know whether this is the answer, but you have to take the handcuffs off of the quarterback and off of your offensive system to find out if it's the answer. That's where I'd start.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the first drive against the 49ers, and then you look at the drive, I think it was the second or third drive with the Saints. Um, both times, Chris Olave is in the end zone. One of them, he's wide open in the 49ers game. The other one, if Rattler puts the ball in front of Olave instead of behind him where the defensive back can make a play, that's a touchdown. That's 2 touchdowns right there.
Mm-hmm.
The 49ers game, that might have turned out to be the winning margin.
Mm-hmm.
For the Seattle game, I don't know if it's a momentum shifter or not, but man, it's just, you've got to make those throws. If you're an NFL quarterback, you have to make those kind of throws. And his accuracy is awful when it comes to anything that's beyond 5 or 6 yards. And that's what he's averaging, about 5 to 6 yards of play. And it's frustrating as anything to watch him because you do see, because of the way the defenses are playing in the Saints now, you do see the middle of the field opening up, and you see the routes at the second level opening up because they're playing a soft shell with the safety sitting up high, so nothing deep. The cornerbacks are sitting on the outside waiting for those horizontal routes where he's going to try and hit the back on a wheel route or a swing route or a shallow cross, and the linebackers are sitting right there. So as soon as somebody catches the ball, bam, they're getting hit, or bam, they're getting ganged up and brought down. So it's frustrating because we can see it. I'm sure Moore can see it, but he's looking at his play call sheet like, what can I call that they can execute? And it just feels like they can't execute, and I don't know. I'm at the point now, since since Sunday is going to be a blowout, you play Rattler, let him start, let him play the first half, and if the score is 34-0 or something ridiculous like that, put Shuck in to start the second half.
Yeah.
And get him ready because he's taking over come the following Sunday against the Giants. And it's not, people are like, oh, okay, now you're blaming Rattler for the losses. I'm not.
No, not at all.
I'm saying that if you lack the confidence and you don't think Rattler can push the ball down the field, it's time to put in the next guy and see what he's going to do. You spent the 40th overall pick on him. This was the guy that you said you had to have. And I'm talking about Kellen Moore, not Mickey Loomis. Everybody wants to put this on Mickey Loomis. I'm like, no, this is Kellen Moore's guy. Kellen Moore said, I want a new quarterback. I do not want Derek Carr to be my starter. And that's what got Derek Carr's nose bent all out of shape. And he said, I can't play. I'm hurt. Now I want to be out of here.
Right.
So if this is the guy you picked and you were going to hold him out because you want to, let's see if we can have Rattler win a couple of games and carry us, and then I'll kind of put you in, work you in later on in the season. We're beyond that point. This team isn't going to the playoffs. We have nothing left to lose. We've seen what Rattler looks like out there. Let's put Shuck in. We got to see if he is going to be the guy, or if we got to look at, we're going to be a top 5 pick. We got to start looking at quarterbacks in this draft. That's, oh God. Ain't no time. I don't think so. No, it's not. It's not a knock on Rattler, and that's what I'm trying to get. I want to get across. Rattler looks like the guy that, like a 5th round pick that you drafted, that has some potential and some skill, but he's not. He's showing he can't, unless he plays dramatically different against Buffalo. He's just going to do the same thing. Throw passes, check downs, underneath throws. I'll take maybe take a couple of shots deep into double coverage, but I'm not hitting those middle of the field throws. I'm definitely not hitting guys on the run. I'm not, so there's no yards after the catch. We got to see if Shuck can do it. He was doing it in preseason. I did see some yards after the catch from Shuck in preseason. So, and again, Shuck could be just as bad. Could look the same way. But we got to know, because this is a time, Brian was talking earlier about trading all the veterans. But this is a time where you start going, you know what? Play this guy. Devin Neal, we need you out here.
Quincy Riley.
Time for you to replace Yidam in the backfield. Stutzman, it's time for you to step in for Pete Werner. We got to start playing all you guys. We got Sanker out there already because of the Blackham injury. We need to get these guys out there. Let's see. Well, I don't know. I don't know if he really is a bum or not.
Right. How do you know that? Is my question. I'm not saying he is or isn't. But as Alan said, as I said, during and immediately after the draft, regardless of the way you, Brian, or anybody else feels about Shuck, good or bad, this is the guy that Kellen Moore picked to be his quarterback. Yeah. So at some point in time, and I wouldn't do it against Buffalo, not on the road, but at some point in time, Kellen Moore has got to say, Tyler, it's time to see what you can do. Because and you just said it, Alan, if the Saints end up with a top 5 pick, and I don't like any of the quarterbacks in this draft. I didn't this upcoming draft, I meant. I didn't coming into the season, by the way. I didn't like Arch. If he comes out, I still don't think he will. Aller's not ready. The kid from South Carolina isn't ready. Klubnik is not ready. I don't like any of them.
Klubnik's horrible.
Yeah. Nussmeier. No, don't like Nussmeier either. Those are stories for another day.
Carson Beck,
Yeah. If you have a top 3, a top 5 pick, a top 1 pick, you need to know whether your quarterback is already on the roster. And Brian, you might be right. Shuck might be a bum. Lord knows lots of people are out there think that way. But again, how do you know? We haven't seen him play. Not in a meaningful game. Don't give me preseason and practice, because it's not like Rattler was a world beater either here, folks. You need to find out if Shuck is your guy. You need to find out if Devin Neal or Kendre Miller needs more touches. You need to find out if they're your backfield. You need to find out if Stutzman is your future starter, Quincy Riley your future starter. You can't do that when they're getting 0 defensive snaps per game in the case of Stutzman and Riley, going into the Seattle game. Even I want to get slightly off topic for a minute. You're getting your asses curb stomped. Why the hell? Riley got some snaps, not early enough. I think Stutzman got some snaps, not early enough. Shuck got 1 series. Why the hell wouldn't you put them in earlier? It's not your day. You don't want to get those guys shell-shot. I get all that, but what the hell do you have to lose?
Right.
If Shuck gets a couple snaps, or a couple series rather, Riley, Stutzman, they get a couple series, at least when you say, okay, it is time for me to see what I have in these guys, at least they're not coming in cold. They have some sort of legitimate NFL experience. Yet another in a litany of mistakes that I think that Kellen Moore made during Seattle week.
Yeah. My thing is to, if I have the number 1 overall pick, to answer Brian's question, I'm shopping it. Honestly.
Yeah.
I am shopping it for more picks. Because this team has a lot of holes, and they're not a quarterback away from fixing it. They're not a defensive end away from fixing it or an impact wide receiver, or yes, the tight ends are trash. I'm not denying that at all. Um, I've been saying the tight end's been trash since Jimmy Graham got traded. So this is a recurring theme for me.
Mhm.
But I'm trading down to get a slew of picks. That's where I'm going to get my picks from. Just because I need the picks. I don't need the players yet. I need multiple players at multiple positions. As far as Loomis, here's the thing. Loomis has got the job that he decides when he leaves, not Gale, not Dennis Lawshow, whoever else you want to put in that position. Loomis is going to decide when he's ready to go. And unfortunately, Loomis feels like I got to rebuild this team to another championship level team before I walk away. And, getting Thomas Dimitrov in here now, you already have, I just drew a blank on his name. Randy Mueller.
Mueller, Ireland.
You got Jeff Ireland, who's a former GM as well. You've got 4 GMs in there now. Is he farming out his job to become more like a CEO where he sits above everything and, these other guys start really evaluating talent and then advise him as well as the coaches? I don't know. I don't know the dynamics or anything like that. I don't, so to me, I don't even worry about Loomis anymore. I really don't, because there's nothing I can do about it. He's leaving when he wants to leave. It's just, I don't know. I don't. And then Gale, okay? Tom Benson, when he bought the team, he listened to advisors. They told him to hire Jim Finks. He hired Jim Finks, who in turn hired Jim Moore. That was a good matchup. Jim Finks dies. Benson's first step was to split Finks's power among one of Finks's underlings. That was Bill Kuharich, Jim Moore, and then he brought in Jim Miller to handle contracts. Jim Miller screwed the team by not paying Morton Anderson, recommending he takes a pay cut. Then he pisses off Sam Mills by not offering him a contract, saying, go out there and go find your worth in free agency and come back to us. So he pisses him off. So 2 of the cornerstones of the franchise under Finks, he never let out the door. So that was a disaster.
Yep.
That's
not to mention the way the Pat Swilling situation was handled a couple years prior.
Yeah.
You got Willie Rofe out of that, but still,
right.
That was very clear the way the franchise decided they wanted to do their business after Fink's health went downhill.
Mm-hmm. So then he says, okay, Jim Moore quit. We fired Jim Miller. We're going to make Bill Kuharich the GM. And they hire Mike Ditka. So you got Kuharich and Ditka in there. And that was epitomized not only by those terrible drafts, but the Ricky Williams deal. Finally, Tom Benson wises up. I'm going to fire everybody. And I'm going to do it over again like I did back in 1986. And I'm going to hire a GM that in turn hires the head coach. So you get Randy Mueller and Jim Haslett. Good dynamic for 1 year. 2001, that locker room goes to hell. All the rumors, Willie Rofe's wife, all that stuff happens. Then Randy Mueller, instead of taking a contract, I know this for a fact, but instead of taking, and I know this from a prime source in the organization at the time, instead of taking the contract that was sitting on his desk from Tom Benson, sign this. This is your extension for a good job you did in 2000 and even handled in 2001. Randy Mueller takes an interview with the Atlanta Falcons for the GM position. Of all teams, Randy Mueller does this. Comes back in town. Benson knew. Benson found out because he's going to find out.
Mm-hmm.
Contract's missing. All your shit is off your desk in a box. You walk in going, what the hell just happened? And Tom says, I told you not to go. You went. You disobeyed me. I'll take your keys. There's the door. And that was it. And fans were aghast, but that's what happened. Mickey Loomis was the assistant under Randy Mueller. He came in 2000 with Randy from Seattle. Benson appoints Loomis the GM, and he's been the GM ever since. So Gale doesn't even, when Gale comes in, Loomis has already been there for 10 years, you know? People forget, that, what's her name? Gale, Benson's third wife died of cancer, and he was single for a little while before he got remarried. You going to trust Gale to hire a new GM? Who's she know? Who's going to advise her on who to hire?
Yeah.
So that's my thing when it comes to Loomis.
Yeah, and I get the anger and the frustration towards Loomis, but just like Alan said, folks, he ain't going anywhere until he wants to go somewhere. And maybe he's setting the groundwork for that with Dimitrov, Ireland and Mueller. But the only way it happens is if he decides it's going to happen. So we can hate it all we want, but that is one of those uncontrollable situations right now. And unfortunately, until it does happen, this team is probably going to be mired in below mediocrity. And that's just, that's why one of the reasons why you could be looking at a 3 to 5 year rebuild.
Yeah. I mean, and that, to me, Moore's got to get it right. Moore's got to be the one that's got to turn this thing around. And, I'm worried how this is going to play out. How does he handle these crises? Is he going to be the cold intellectual who is, it's all about the process. We're getting the process. We're going to keep working in this and we're going to do this. Or is he going to be that coach who kind of takes control of the team and benches some starters in favor of other players? I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah. And you and I said this about Dennis Allen too. Nobody is saying that Kellen Moore has to be a fiery, throw shit around, threaten guys, publicly and openly, yelling, screaming. That's not who he is. And you can't ask somebody to change their personality because players are going to see right through that, and he's going to lose respect at that point. However, you can still be, the laid back tactician and still hold accountability to your players and your staff and yourself. I suggested on Jordy Hultberg this morning that this Buffalo game is the potential turning point for the Saints season. Now, they don't have to win necessarily for it to be a turning point, but I'm very interested in seeing how Moore, this staff, and whatever leadership this team has is going to show itself this week. Because if the Saints go out and just get completely humiliated like they did against Seattle, then I think this season spirals quickly. But if the Saints come in here, and I'm still in disbelief that I'm using the term moral victory because it sickens me, but if you play the Bills hard down the stretch, if you give them a fight and make them sweat it out, you could actually take some momentum out of this week with a loss and cement your locker room, and then kind of steel yourself for at least average football Is it hyperbole to suggest that that's how important this week is?
Yeah, I mean, here's the thing for me, because I had 3 losses of the first 4 games at least penciled in. Where that first win was going to happen, I had somewhere between Arizona and Seattle was going to be that first win. But this one was definitely going to be a loss. I mean, this is a Super Bowl caliber team. This is the team that's going to most likely at this point of the season be the team that represents the AFC in the Super Bowl. Because I think what we witnessed in New Orleans the last couple of years of Sean Payton, 1920, even 2021, you're seeing play out right now in Kansas City. They got an aging roster. It looks almost like Andy Reid, Steve Spagnuolo, those guys have kind of played out their coaching, motivational speeches, that kind of stuff.
They're hitting their high draft picks at like a 50-50 rate. Very similar.
Their picks are not playing out. A lot of injuries, they got suspensions. They've got, a lot of problems on that team. And you've seen Travis Kelce, who's an aging player, yelling at his coaches. He cost them a game already. So, I don't have much confidence in Kansas City even making the playoffs right now. Not the way the Chargers are playing. The Chargers, they could melt down, but the Chargers are like the new up-and-coming team, And I'm not counting out Denver, although they've lost, 2 games. They had one. They've lost. They're losing games. So, but I still think they got a great shot at getting a wild card. But so I don't see Kansas City being the 3rd team to make the playoffs from that division. There's a lot of problems in on that organization. So, it looks like there's some new blood coming up out of the AFC. I don't know about Baltimore's always going to be there, but the Baltimore Ravens tend to choke. My point is, right now in September, on September 23rd, I think Buffalo's the class of the AFC. The NFC, a lot more wide open. Until I saw Green Bay implode, and I'm telling you, if you want to think the league is rigged and outcomes are predetermined, you watch that last quarter of the Packers-Browns game. What the hell was that?
Yeah.
That looks like point shaving to me. I mean, I don't know. But I mean, so I don't know who's going to come out of there. Obviously, the Eagles are still a great team. Detroit looks like they found their footing after that opening day, loss. Green Bay is still tops. I don't know who's going to come out of the NFC West. And the NFC South looks like it's just all Tampa again, unfortunately, because Atlanta's a joke. I saw that too. The point spread is 16.5. It's the largest since the 1975 Saints, which, much like this current team, struggled to score more than 21 points in a game. They only scored 24 points, I think, once of all of 1975. They were averaging a touchdown a game. So, pretty bad. Compared to us, yes. Tampa, to me, is good enough to lose in the first round of the playoffs again. They play on the edge.
Mm-hmm.
They wait to the last quarter to really try and put a team away or win on a last-minute drive. Baker Mayfield having to play Superman. So it's, they're going to win the division. And unfortunately, Tampa is what we should be.
Mm-hmm.
I can hear Sean from here. I know you can too. This is why you go get Baker Mayfield instead of Derek Carr.
Yeah.
Um, Baker's carrying that team. They've got talent. Don't get me wrong. But they are hitting on their draft picks because they don't need anybody. That's the difference. They can just go get players that they want.
Mm-hmm.
They don't have any glaring holes on their roster where they have to go get somebody.
Yep.
Think about, talking about how bad the tight ends are in this organization. There was Tyler Warren, right there at 9. We could have drafted him. McMillan was there. We could have drafted him. But we needed a left tackle because we can't get a good left tackle. Tampa doesn't have that problem.
Nope.
Tampa can just sit there and wait and see who falls to them.
That's why they get players like Emeka Ibuka when they have Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Jalen McMillan on their roster already.
Yep. That's the unfortunate part. That's why Tampa has good players, because they have drafted well consistently. So that's the frustrating thing when it comes to watching Tampa. Meanwhile, Atlanta's like us. Atlanta's going up there and grabbing guys, trying to fix holes, and they create more holes in the roster. Who's evaluating players? The head coach. Honestly, it's the head coach, Dennis Allen. He's the one that said Trey Hendrickson's a try-hard guy, not a great defensive pass rusher. He's the one that couldn't figure out how to use Zach Bond. He's the one that said, I got to have Trevor Penning as my left tackle. Sean Payton was the one that said, I got to have Cesar Ruiz as my guard, or maybe my center. That's, and it's, that they're going to sit there and say they're doing a good job, but Jeff Ireland too. Jeff Ireland and his scouts are not scouting the right kind of players.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Caden Ellis, he's a 7th round pick, but yeah, the point is there was a guy that you said, oh, we can replace him.
Yeah.
We can replace Trey Hendrickson with a 1st round pick. We'll go ahead and just go draft Peyton Turner, as a 1st round pick to replace
because he scored off the chart on our Raz sheet. F all whether he can actually play football or not.
Yeah, Mickey's management style, and here's where you want to blame Loomis. Mickey's management style is I defer to my coaches on the players that they want. That's the guys that they want to get. Oh, you want Deshaun Watson as your quarterback? I'll figure out a way to make the money work so we can afford him. And it's, They didn't pay Davenport, though.
That's also the precise reason why I keep telling people, because I get, you get asked a lot too, who's to blame for this? Everybody. Mm-hmm. I get that Loomis is getting hate, and I understand why, and I'm right there with you. But like you said, Alan, if Loomis was the type of general manager, or Gale was the type of owner, like a Jerry Jones or Daniel Snyder or Pat Bowlen was, then we'd be yelling and screaming, "You got to let the coaches coach, and you got to let the coaches evaluate." Well, Loomis is exactly that type of general manager. So, even going back to Sean Payton, even Sean Payton deserves a buttload of the blame for the situation that this team is in.
Yeah. I mean, the people who are mad the Saints didn't draft Lamar Jackson in 2018. The guy who made that call to get Davenport, Sean Payton.
Yep.
Mickey Loomis was the one who traded another first. So you get 2 firsts for Marcus Davenport. But Sean Payton was like, why we lost that game for the Minnesota Miracle? A Minneapolis Miracle, we didn't have a good pass rusher. If we had somebody who could rush the passer, he doesn't have time to make that throw. This guy, I like this guy because remember the running joke. Who do the Saints like to draft? They like to draft guys from Bloomberg and from Townsend and San Jose State and, all these small schools in Canada when it comes to Hakeem Hicks and David Onyemata. That was the Sean Payton thing. That's the weakness of Loomis's managerial style. And the other thing is a philosophical approach. The collective bargaining agreement means that you are going to pay a small group of players and you let everybody else walk because you're drafting. Okay. The Saints had the opposite approach. And this, you can blame this on Loomis too, but the Saints approach is I'm going to pay a lot of players and I'm going to burn assets to get guys that we want. We're not going to take the chance they're not on the board when we're up to pick. So we're going to aggressively go after them. So that's why you end up trading, a couple of day 3 picks for Jake Hayner or a first round pick for Marcus Davenport, or you trade up to go try and get Zach Bond, or you try and trade up because they wanted Mac Jones. That's who Sean wanted. So I mean, there's as Sean used to say, there's a lot of dirty hands in this organization for the problems they're in right now, and it's very frustrating because you want one guy to be the problem. If we just get rid of this one guy, we can fix it all. Just replace this one piece. You almost have to change it, because remember when Spiny put up LSU, but remember how the story was Sean doesn't like LSU players. That's why the Saints never draft any LSU players. It's that kind of thing. It's like several people with this mindset, of how to build a team, and that's what needs to change. Okay. Oh, that's Southeastern. Yeah. My uncle right now is screaming at you from his grave right now. Because I went to University of Louisiana at Lafayette. It was called USL back then. And my Uncle Dixon went to Southeastern Louisiana. The initials are SLU. And he would tell me every time he saw me for 4 years, they misspelled your school's name. It should be SLU, not USL, And you should be here in Hampton at Strawberry Stadium. So, it's a very small school. But, LSU is playing all the state schools again. They're going to try and rotate them through the schedule. So, And I'm not surprised LSU killed them because they're a small school. That's, you're not getting top athletes.
Maybe Brian Kelly can at least win the Louisiana State Championship.
So defensively then, because we kind of picked on the offense, and I think we're both in agreement. We got to see some youth in there. I think if Penning plays this week, Ruiz probably gets benched.
If Radens is healthy, you'd hope so. You'd think so.
Yeah. I think Simpkins did not step up enough for them to feel confident to put him in there. But I think he just needs enough healthy bodies on the offensive line to start justify movement. Because even Banks had a terrible game against the Seahawks, which is unusual. But okay, so defensively, Chase Young has that calf injury that was only supposed to just take a couple of weeks. It's now going on 4 weeks here.
Yeah, we're from day to day to month, apparently.
Yeah, and I know a little bit about calf injuries, and I know that it's one of these kinds of things that you can't put a guy on IR. You just have to see how it handles response to treatment.
Right.
And that's all you can do with it. You just treat it and then look, then treat it and just see how it responds. So, I mean, he wasn't lying by saying I shouldn't be out. I won't be out long. It's just his body's not responding the way it's supposed to be. He's better than Daryl Turnstile Terrell. That's the guy who replaced Willie Rofe in 2001. But he's getting right there. He's getting up there as a turnstile. What would you do to try to improve this defense? Or do you just kind of say this was a bad day at the office? What do you think is wrong with this defense?
It's most certainly a bad day at the office. But you really got to look hard at your secondary because Sunday wasn't the only awful day. The secondary has played awful for 3 straight weeks now. You need to make plays back there, and Kool-Aid. Although he got beat a couple times on Sunday, I'm not worried about Kool-Aid. He's going to kind of stop it with Gardner Johnson. You do not want to bring it. Look, I love Gardner Johnson as a player, but the fact is you need to be a legitimate Super Bowl contender, because if you lose a couple games in a row, Gardner Johnson is going to rip that locker room apart. He has done so every single place he's been. And
he doesn't just burn bridges. He uses napalm.
Yeah, he does.
Just lights those former teams up. And that's why teams are like, get the hell out of here.
Yeah, he does. He's this decade's Junior Gillette.
He napalms bridges. That's the only way I can put it.
Yeah, and outside, unless Asante Samuel has neck replacement surgery, there's no answer outside of the roster. You have to sit Yidam. You do.
I think so too.
You got to see what you have in Quincy Riley. Hell, what's the worst that you can't get any worse play than what you're getting out of Isaac. Kool-Aid, I think, will be okay. You need, and it's not that Reed and Sanker are playing poorly; they're just not making plays. I think that will come. We talked about it. About the safeties coming into the regular season, that we thought by midseason, by end of year, that this would turn out to be a much more athletic crew than what we've seen the last previous couple years. But it's going to take some time to get some communication issues down. But if you're Brendan Staley, you really have to look at the secondary hard and say, okay, I have to change my coverage philosophy to fit the guys that I have on the roster. And I haven't really rewatched a lot of film to figure out myself what that could be. To give any suggestions on shows like this or my articles, but I think I think it's on Staley. I'm not saying Staley should change his defensive philosophy, because coaches just don't do that. But you do have to curtail your system for what your players are doing best and minimize their weaknesses. But again, the first thing you need to do is play Riley over Yidam right now. And this was the same thing we said with Dennis Allen's defenses the last 2 years. You need pressure up front. You need disruption up front. You didn't get that in the second half. You didn't get enough of that against San Francisco, and you didn't get any of it against Seattle. The guys up front got to play better. Getting a healthy Chase Young back hopefully will help, but we've discussed Chase Young. He's not a finisher. You don't have a finisher on your roster. So you have to manufacture disruption. That's where it starts.
Yeah, I'm all about. I see a couple of comments coming through, and need to see more from Ford and Stutzman. I think it's time.
Stallbird too.
And Stallbird too. I think it's time to put Stutzman in for Werner, just as a start, and see what he looks like. Granderson is probably your best pass rusher right now, which is an amazing statement to make. But unfortunately, because of the Chase Young injury, Cam Jordan's out there way too long. and it shows. You need to play. You need Chase Young on the field to cut the snaps down. You need Chase Young and Brian Brzee to finish. They're not finishing like they should. We need to see more from the inside tackles. I don't know. Right now, you got Shepard out there. You've got. We lost the rookie for the year. I'm just not seeing a lot of push up the middle from the nose tackle. I know they rotate these guys to try and keep everybody fresh for the fourth quarter, but you just need to get more pressure up in their face, and it's frustrating because if the offense can just get some drives going, and put points on the board to change the way the opposing offense attacks the defense, I think that helps. I saw your comment, Brian, about, Kool-Aid being a liability, but he's a young player. So this is what you got to do. You got to put him out there and you're going to get burnt, but you got to see if he can make plays for you. We got to see the same thing with Riley because we already know we didn't have anything in Yidam, I don't know if they're cursed. I mean, that was a popular theory under the Meekum years. I think they just have bad players. For a brief time with Peyton and Breeze, we were the opposite. Guys would come here who were bad elsewhere and turn into good players, And if they left here and went somewhere else, and you think of a guy like Robert Meacham going to San Diego, you think about some of the other players that left here. Jamal Brown, who's a Pro Bowl offensive tackle, when he left here, didn't do anything. Carl Nix, Hall of Fame caliber guard, Saints Hall of Fame for sure, injures his knee, gets MRSA, a staph infection, in Tampa, ends his career there. So, there was guys that were leaving here and getting the curse. Now it seems like it's back in spades. Valet did not play. He was injured. He wasn't in the game at all. We're going to see if Trey Palmer can do something for us. It's just a lot of stuff that this team needs to see. I'm not ready to throw the towel in the season.
No.
I'm not expecting a playoff team or anything foolish like that. I just need to see who's our core. What's our identity? What can we hang our offensive philosophy identity on? Are we a running team? Are we a passing team? We've got these running backs, but we're kind of built for a vertical game, but we throw horizontally. It's just I need to see what does Moore want this team to be, and I need to see that kind of stuff.
And again, you could go a long way by establishing that on Sunday, win or lose. If you put up a good fight against Buffalo, then you go into a stretch immediately after Giants, Patriots, Bears, and Bucks. And I know the Bucks are playing good football. Well, they're playing winning football. Mm-hmm. Like you said, I agree with you, Alan. It looks like a house of cards to me. Plus, New Orleans traditionally plays Tampa Bay pretty well. Giants, Patriots, Bears, Bucks. With the way the Saints played in the first, if the Seattle game never happened, we're looking at this stretch of the schedule thinking Giants, Patriots, Bears, Bucks. You could realistically get 3 wins out of that. Now, the Seattle embarrassment happens. Now everybody is saying, 1-16, 0-17. Probably a happy medium. Again, if you come out and embarrass yourself with another lethargic performance against Buffalo, it completely possible, by the way. So if you do, then we're talking, okay, will they be able to win 1 of those October games that we just talked about. Completely different conversation.
Yeah, and that's why I have the title, the Green Day song, as the title of this episode, Wake Me Up When the September Ends, because to me, that's where the real season's going to start. This is, and it depends on how Moore approaches it. If Moore starts with putting in young guys and all the stuff we were talking about tonight, and they win 3 to 5 games, that's a good season based off the talent level of this roster. And there are 3 to 5 wins in this schedule for the rest of the year. I really believe this, and I also got a bet at work going on about this. I got a guy telling me they're not going to win a game, and I'm telling him, we went through the whole roster, and I counted off, before Seattle, I counted off 7 possible wins.
Same.
But,
because later in the season, you're looking at Dolphins, Dolphins, Jets, Titans.
Yeah.
You mean to tell me you have 2 games against the Panthers, 2 games against the Falcons? They're sure as hell not going 0-4 against those 2 teams.
No.
The minimum 2-2. And again, you talk about 3 wins in October. Jets, Titans, Dolphins, 2 out of 3 wins there at least. That's 5. And you split Panthers and Falcons. Now all of a sudden you're talking a 6-7 win team.
Yeah. I mean, they're bad, but there are a lot of teams that are bad. So I mean, I don't know how many people watched. So I had NFL Red Zone on, and this is the last thing we're going to talk about tonight, but I had NFL Red Zone on earlier, before the Saints game. So I'm watching these games. That's why I know what happened in the Packers-Browns game, and I know what happened with the Jets and the Bucks and those kind of things. And I'm watching these games. I'm going, God, this is terrible football. Damn, these teams suck. And we get so focused on the Saints, and we think that's the worst team in the NFL. But when you start watching these other teams, and especially when you see them play against a good team, you realize they got a lot of the same problems that we have. So the question is, who's going to suck less? It's just, it really is. And that's why, and Brian, they could very well get a top 5 pick, but, and like I said, I want them to trade down for a change and get multiple picks. But you realize that 3 wins, 4 wins, 5 wins probably gets you into the bottom half of the top 10, because you can have that many teams out there with the same number of wins that you have. And that's the hard part. Bob, so you have the Bayou Blitz coming up tomorrow night, or is it going to be Thursday night?
No, we're going tomorrow night.
Okay.
Going live at 8 Central. Probably a lot of the same conversations that we had tonight, because that's just the conversation going on around the Saints right now.
That's it.
We're going to analyze the Bills a little bit. If the Saints are going to make, I'm not even going to say pull an upset win, because let's try to be real here too.
If they can score points.
If they're going to make a game of this, if they're going to make Buffalo come out of Sunday saying, "Wow, we were in a fight," what do they have to do so? Where is Buffalo vulnerable? Where could the Saints take advantage? And how do we really expect the Saints to rebound? We talked a little bit about that tonight. Kellen Moore, staff, team leadership, young core. How are they going to respond from this? Those are the kind of things that we'll focus on tomorrow.
Absolutely. Oh, we didn't even mention it, but so the Saints, the Giants, I don't know if you saw this or not, but they benched I just drew a blank on his name now.
Russell
Wilson, thank you, for Jackson Dart. So we could see a Dart versus Shuck matchup in 2 weeks. It's possible.
We could, and that's the game on. That's really the first game on the schedule that you and I highlighted for when we could realistically see Tyler Shuck. And depending on what happens on Sunday, that's when it was never going to be at Buffalo. They were never going to do that to Shuck. Home against the Giants is the first possibility I had that highlighted.
Yeah, you got 2 back-to-back home games against winnable games with New England and the Giants. That doesn't mean they're going to win, but those are games that you could make the switch. Yeah, I saw that too. They signed Koo. The Giants signed Koo because Graham Gano is hurt. He can't kick.
Could
I
he
think
be
it's funny, huh?
Could he be 4?
Yeah, I know. But I think it's funny that the Falcons cut Koo because they felt confident about their kicker. We got a guy who's better. He misses 2 kicks in the shutout. So that's a typical Falcons move. Mm-hmm. And I bet they do. I bet they do. It's such a Falcons move. There's a team that, if they don't make the playoffs and definitely don't win the division, they're going to fire everybody, the head coach, the GM, everyone, to try and fix this. And they don't have a first-round pick next year. So that's the other reason why. Oh, no. I'm sorry. I can't. Josh Allen. That's all I'm going to say. Josh Allen is the MVP of the league. He's playing at MVP level. I just can't see. We got to wait a week.
Ethan, I'm going to tell you what. If that happens, I want you to remind us here next Tuesday, and I will send you a link to. Alan has control over this show. I have control over mine. I will send you a link. You will join us on the Bayou Blitz a week from Wednesday if you are correct. I promise you. That's my promise to you.
Well, I'll tell you what. For a minute there, Bob, I thought you were going to say, I'm going to do the show naked if that happens.
No one wants to see. I want people to tune into my show, not the vice versa.
That's exactly right. I was going to say the same thing. But the way you were building that up, I'm like, is he going to say something really outrageous? Anyway, Bob, I kept you too long tonight, but it was a great conversation, Brian. I appreciate it. Always. The questions and the comments.
Always.
Even if I didn't get them all, I tried to grab them all as they were popping up. But I appreciate everything you guys, Hemisphere, you two, everybody chiming in on the chat because it helps this show so much when you guys participate in the chat like this because I like seeing these comments. Brian, you're probably not wrong. I totally agree with that prediction. As of right now, that's my feeling too. They're just.
I knew Eagles were going to be up there, Brian. I still believe that they are. My preseason predictions had Lions over Bills.
Yeah. They're just playing. Those teams all play at a totally different level than what we're watching Sundays in New Orleans. I mean, it's frustrating. It's embarrassing because we used to be those guys and we're not, and that's what hurts. But yeah, I really appreciate Ethan. I'm telling you, you got to come on this show. We're gonna get you on this show because I'd be shocked. Anyway, thank you guys for joining us tonight. Sticking with us all this time. We'll see you next time under the dome. Good night, everybody.
Good night.